Zheng He was a Chinese explorer born in 1371 in Yunnan, China. His original name was Ma He, derived from the Chinese rendition of Muhammad. Ma He had 5 siblings, 1 brother and 4 sisters. He was raised Muslim and began to study Islam at a young age. Ma He's grandfather and father were both Hajis, or people who made religious pilgrimages to Mecca, making them somewhat familiar with other places in the world. His family's knowledge of foreign lands may have encouraged Ma He's explorations later on in life. In 1381, when Ma He was 10 years old, the Ming army captured him and killed his father. He then became a eunuch, a type of servant that is castrated. He was employed under Prince Zhu Di. When the first Ming emperor died, Zhu Di forcibly seized the throne from the emperor's grandson, his successor. Zhu Di proclaimed himself Emperor Yongle, which translates to perpetual happiness. As a reward for his role in battles to win the throne, Ma He was promoted to Director of Palace Servants. He was also awarded with the name Zheng He in honor of Zheng, Yongle's favorite horse.
The Yongle Emperor was determined to control trade in the Indian Ocean, so he decided to commission the building of a fleet of 3,500 ships. Zheng He would command the fleet and supervise the construction of the fleet. Within the fleet were reportedly huge 9-masted treasure ships, which measure at about 400 feet long, making these ships some of the largest the world had ever known, even larger than any European ship at the time. Zheng He's first voyage from 1405 to 1407 was composed of 317 ships, including 62 of the massive treasure ships, as well as many of the people of various skills such as repairmen, builders, soldiers, and even astronomers. The fleet traveled through Southeast Asia onto the island of Java, and finally to their destination of Calicut. As Zheng He was returning, he defeated a group of pirates in the port of Palembang, taking their leader prisoner to be beheaded in China. Zheng He's second voyage was not actually led by him in person. However, Zheng He was the one to organize the voyage, which would send 68 ships to attend the inauguration of a new king in Calicut. The third voyage, however, was commanded by Zheng He in person, as he led 48 ships with 30,000 troops to visit many places he had visited before in his first voyage, such as Malacca, Ceylon, and Calicut. Zheng He's fleet would eventually engage the kingdom of Kut in a battle and defeat their army, capturing the king and returning to China.
The fourth voyage. On this voyage, Zheng He had 63 ships, over 28,000 soldiers, and he had a main fleet and a secondary fleet. Zheng He traveled beyond India and across the Arabian Sea, making him the first to do so. He extended the scope of his expedition even further. He led his armada all the way to the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa. Because of all these stops in exotic places, he brought back gifts and goods to China. On this voyage, a 25-year-old Muslim translator, Ma Huan, joined Zheng He. He wrote down the events of the 3 voyages he was on and made it so that we can understand the voyages more clearly today. The fifth voyage. On this voyage, Zheng He had close to the same amount of men and ships as the fourth voyage. He brought back even more gifts and objects that China had not seen before. When he visited, he was presented with hostility, and most places were happy to see him. Great sailors joined him and prepared extensively for the voyages, so there weren't a lot of problems at sea. Many ambassadors from the countries he visited came back to China with him. This voyage was also primarily a return trip for 17 heads of state from South Asia. Zheng He ventured even further, first to Aden at the mouth of the Red Sea and then onto the east coast of Africa, stopping at city-states of Mogadishu and Brawa and Malindi. He brought back extensive gifts and took many people back to China with him.
The sixth voyage. During the sixth voyage, the treasure fleet followed much the same track to Arabia and East Africa, asserting Chinese prestige and collecting tribute from as many as 30 different states and principalities. The sixth voyage took place in 1421 and 1422. It was the shortest of them all. In 1424, Zheng He's friend and sponsor, the Yongle Emperor, died while on a military campaign against the Mongols. His successor, the Hongqi Emperor, ordered an end to the expensive ocean-going voyages. However, the new emperor lived for just 9 months after his coronation and was succeeded by his more adventurous son, the Xuandi Emperor. Under his leadership, the treasure fleet would make one last great voyage. The seventh voyage. On June 29, 1429, the Xuandi Emperor ordered preparations for a final voyage of the treasure fleet. He appointed Zheng He to command the fleet, even though the great admiral was 59 years old and in poor health. This last great voyage took 3 years and visited at least 17 different ports between Champa and Kenya. On the way back to China, likely what is now the Indonesian waters, the Admiral Zheng He died. He was buried at sea, and his men brought a braid of his hair and a pair of his shoes back to be buried in Nanjing. Although he was buried at sea, there was still a tomb made for him in China. The legacy of the treasure fleet. Faced with Mongol threat on the northwest border and the huge financial drain of the expeditions, Ming scholar officials deplored the extravagant voyages of the treasure fleet. Later, emperors and scholars sought to erase memories of these great expeditions from Chinese history. However, Chinese monuments and artifacts scattered all around the rim of the Indian Ocean as far as the Kenyan coast provide solid evidence of Zheng He's passage. In addition, Chinese records of several of the voyages remain, in the writings of such inmates as Ma Huan, Gong Zhen, and Fei Jing. Thanks to these traces, historians and the public at large can still ponder the amazing tales of these adventures that took place 600 years ago.